How you doing? Welcome to the Supreme Hustle Experience. Hi, my name is Terrence, and I'm your Supreme Hustler. First, I want to start off by saying thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and spend some time with me. Today, I want to talk about something that is really dear to me. It's how my mindset changed my life immediately. How my mindset changed my life immediately. I have a quote for you, and it goes like this. If you want to overcome the whole world, overcome yourself. And to me, that was a powerful quote because what is the thing that holds you back? And to all my Christian believers that are here also supporting this channel, I would like to give you a verse. And the verse says, "You did run well. Who did hinder you that you should not obey the truth?" Galatians 5:7. The biggest problem for us is us. It's you, the man in the mirror, the person that can hinder your growth. The person that can stop is you. The person that can lose is you. That's the whole crux of it. It's not anybody else. It's not about what someone says in your comments. It's not about who else channel is blowing up. It's not about them. It's about you. What are you doing? And I'll tell you a little story, the thing that changed my life immediately, how my mindset shifted. It was back in 2009. And sometimes you really don't know really what was that moment that was pivotal in your life until years later when you're able to go back and look and say, that's the day when everything shifted. That's the day everything changed. And for me, interestingly enough, it was at MLM. And some of you may know them as pyramid schemes. I had made up in my mind I would never go to another pyramid scheme. I was never going to be a part of those type of businesses ever again. But I ended up getting invited to one based from someone that I had just met. Her name was Cindy died, and her husband was Larry died. And I sold them a lawn and pest control service. I've been in sales. I was in sales at that point up to over 30 years. And I didn't want to go to the meeting, but they just spent money. And then she said something that caught my interest when she said, "Hey, we'll pay for your membership." I'm like, okay. Because she thought I was just a good salesperson and she really wanted me to be on her team. So I said, okay. So what was interesting, I ended up tearing my quad tendon like a couple of days later, and I had to have emergency surgery. And so had emergency, I was on the crutches, and the time came for me to go to this meeting. And I said, you know what? I need to keep my word. I did tell her I would come. Although I had an excuse, and to some people it was a good excuse. You're on crutches. You had your quad tendon. That's the easy way to get out of it. But I went. There was something that was urging me and really pushing me to go to that meeting. And I'm going to let you know, I'm glad I did. Because at that meeting, I was introduced to some things that I had never heard before. I was introduced to online marketing. I never knew what that was. I didn't know anything about social media at the time. Facebook was starting to really grow at this time, and MySpace was on the decline. Now I heard of MySpace, but I was never on any of them. I never wanted to waste my time with any of that stuff. And because I went to that meeting, it made me change the way that I thought, my mindset. And it made me realize, you know what, there's opportunities here that I'm missing because I don't know what it is. I have no idea or clue of what this world is. And so by introducing me to that world, I was able to see some things that I never saw before. Now, like I said, I've been in sales for years, and I knew a little bit. I'm not gonna say I'm the greatest salesperson in the world, but I've been trained. And so I started looking at this as a new opportunity, a new way to build wealth. And so I immersed myself into this particular program. And it didn't pan out the way I would have liked it to pan out, because just for a lot of my Christian friends out here that's watching, that day when I went to that meeting, the Spirit spoke to me and said, learn the internet, learn the internet. And I didn't know what that meant at that time. And so I'm following the leading of the Lord, and I want to learn this internet. And so I thought this was the best avenue to learn it. Now, how many of you in here understand that sometimes when you see things or when the Lord tells you things, it happens exactly the way He says it's going to happen, but you interpret it wrong? And so that's what happened to me. When He told me to learn the internet for ministry, I was like, okay, yes, right, I'm going to do this because I'm going to do it for the kingdom of God. But in my mind, I was going to use it to build me wealth. And because I was so new at it, I didn't understand none of this stuff. It was a long, drawn out process. That's why I made the video yesterday talking about the passion, how you know it's passion. You have to be willing to suffer for it. But my mindset started to shift. I started to wanted to learn more about how this internet thing worked, because I didn't know. And so over time, just like a lot of different things, I wasn't finding any success in it. It was hard for me to wrap my head around it. I was struggling to understand what I was doing. I was confused. Just like a lot of people here that started their YouTube channel, you really don't know your audience. You don't know what you want to talk about yet. So you're just throwing everything to the wall to see what sticks. And so at that point, I began to go down the journey, and then I was at the point where I just was ready to give up. And then one day I ran into a gentleman. His last name is Piggy, and so I would call him Mr. Piggy, and he would call me Mr. Weed. And he saw me out trying to build a company, because I had started a business after that. That's a different story. But he said he knew about online marketing, and I said, wow. So I was intrigued again. And so me and him began to build a friendship at that time. From there, it led me to watching, he told me about Warrior Forum. And I went to the forum to, this is where a lot of online marketers go to promote and sell and encourage people. It was, like I said, the forum was bigger than, it wasn't bigger than Facebook, but this is a type of forum where people will go, a message board where people will go that were like-minded. Now, it was two gentlemen who had a course that was going to teach you online marketing. My friend said he wanted to show me it, but I knew me. I knew I had a hard time learning things, and I kind of had a discernment about how he was, that it was going to really upset him when I keep asking the same questions over and over again, and he keep telling me the answer and I'm still not getting. It was going to frustrate him. So I said I needed something that it was recorded so I can go back and look at it over and over again until I got it. So I ended up buying that course. That course helped me to understand a little bit, not much, but it introduced me to WordPress. Well, I was trying to learn how to build WordPress sites. And the problem was I could never get my WordPress site to look like the demo. That's because I didn't understand aspect ratios. I didn't understand how pixels work, and my images always looked horrible. I didn't know what a high resolution image was at the time. And so that forced me to go and learn graphic design. So I started learning about graphic design, how to aspect ratios and how to make an image look right on the screens. And that's where I learned the difference between RGB and CMYK, the difference between digital, the difference between print. I started learning a lot that way. So now you can see how it's taking time. And so I'm still trying to learn more and more. I'm buying into other people's courses. I'm going on to webinars. Webinars was huge back then. And I started recognizing that these webinar people with their software they were selling and promoting, they always had to have a developer. And I started thinking to myself, I need to learn how to become a developer. So that's where the shift happens again. ADHD, I gotta kind of put the blame on that because any squirrel, it's like squirrel. As soon as I'm talking to you, squirrel, I'm distracted. That's kind of how it was. I would always go down these rabbit holes. And I ended up trying to learn how to write code. And the first place I wanted to start was PHP, but not unbeknownst to me, PHP was a dying language. There's not a lot of people that write PHP code. And at that time, that's all I understood. And so I'm trying to learn it. I'm not getting my head wrapped around it. It's hard. It's a struggle. I don't get it. Okay. Then fast forward to 2016. That's when I ended up finding Launch Code. I heard about it in 2014, but I didn't act upon it in 2016. And in 2016, that's when I began to go through a program. And that's interesting how that even happened, because my mind at that time, it was starting to be conditioned. Because now remember, I started in 2009 trying to go on this journey. It was 2016. And I went to the headquarters here in St. Louis for Launch Code. And I didn't have a laptop, so I brought my whole computer. I had an iMac, 27-inch. It was an old one. I bought it used. And I brought it there to kind of demonstrate I can write code, which I couldn't. And they knew it too. But they saw something in me. They said, okay, you got some grit. You got some tenacity. If you want to learn it, it's up to you. You just got to come up here. And at that time, it was a totally different world for the developers. It was new. It was just like if you look at one of those movies where back in the day where you had a whole bunch, a sea of people just coming and going and exciting, like the train station, like everybody was moving through the train stations. And nowadays it's a ghost town. Well, back then that's how it felt. It was exciting. And so at that time, another thing happened to me. Actually, at the end of 2025, the Lord said to me, do you trust me? And so I just want to add that into how I got to Launch Code. And I said, yes, Lord, I trust you. And it said, come off your job. I'm like, what? Come off my job? Okay, I'll do it. If the Lord don't tell you to do certain things, don't do it. Just don't do it because of this testimony. Oh, he doing it, I'm going to do it too. I did it. And I would love to say that everything fell into place immediately. Kumbaya. No, all hell broke loose. I ended up getting evicted. We were renting a house at the time, getting evicted. Me and my wife, me and her, we hadn't been married that long. This is my second wife. So that's more to the story of my life on how it shaped and molded me to get to where I am today. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle because we were homeless, living in a hotel, and with my son now, who is 12. And at that time, he was like 2 or 3 years old. And it was a trying time. But living in that hotel, I'm thinking that when the Lord told me to come off my job, it was going to be for ministry. And again, it was for ministry. I just misinterpreted it. And so as time went on, we're homeless. I don't know what I'm going to do. I ended up getting a job working at like a Home Depot, Office Depot or something to try to help pay for the hotel room we were staying in. So we were both standing into this little hotel room. And over time, you know, this is now May, and that's when I find Launch Code. I go, didn't do good, but they saw something in me, told me to keep coming back, which I did. Came back every single Wednesday. So I won't go too deep into that story. But what happened was at the end of that little program come July, I was supposed to get my resume together, and they was going to send it out to different employers. So I got an email stating that it takes up to 6 months to a year before they can find you placement. My heart sank because I was standing at this hotel who the chillers broke. It was so hot in that room. More to that story too. I decided that, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because right after I got out of the program at the beginning of July, I'm getting ready to go to work. I had a car and it got repossessed. The car was repossessed. Now I can't go to work. I got to find somewhere I can get to in walking distance now. But I only got all the little money I had, I paid for the room for the rest of the month. And I'm like, I got to find something by the end of this month. So I immersed myself into programming. But long story short, I end up getting an interview early. I go down to this interview. This is a big testimony too. I went down to that interview, and that interview was on a Wednesday. And he was having some type of celebration at the job. And it was one of the best aesthetic places that I ever worked before. It kind of reminded me of what you would think of what Google was back in the day. Even though I never worked at Google, I'd never seen the inside of Google, I just heard stories. And this place was fun like that to me. And so I went to the interview, didn't do well. The manager and the project manager said, hey, you want to come back the next day and finish up? I said, yes, because you have to prove to them that you can do the job before they get, and because it was an internship, by the way. I'm leaving it's a lot of gaps in this story. So when I leave to go back to the hotel, catch the train back, get back to the hotel, and I'm trying to prepare myself the whole night. Went to sleep about 3 or 4 o'clock in that morning. Gotta get some rest, get to sleep, get on the train, and go back down. But on my way down to this interview, my wife calls me hysterically. Now, she wasn't staying with me at the hotel at the time because it was just too hot. We were on the 8th floor, and it was 110 degrees index that couple of weeks. So her and my son had to go stay at our mother's house. And I wasn't going to stay at their house because I felt like I'm the man. That was my fault. I just can't run to everybody for help when I make bad moves. So I have to suck it up. I was willing to live in my car if I had to because I made that decision. Nobody else made it. And so I'm up there suffering. So I'm on the train going down to the interview, and she calls me hysterical. And I say, hey, what's going on? What's going on? They garnished my check. They took the whole check. Now, remember, we got evicted, right? They had her information because I didn't have a job at that time. She's so outdone with me. She was so hurt. And I'm on this train, and I'm riding this train, and I'm depressed now. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm just not going to go to the interview because I'm not going to get that job. I'm underqualified. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to have a pity party. And then the Lord began to speak to me and say that, go to that interview. And I'm like, okay. So I get off at the train stop, and I have to walk 8 blocks, because it's 8 blocks from that train stop to get to the location. So I get there. I'm there all day again, I don't have a clue. But then Christians and believers understand what I'm going to say. There was a ram in the bush. Because it was another launch coder there. She already had an internship. She had a degree in software development. She had a degree in it. And so she understood the stuff. And she asked me, she said, do you want to see the source code? I'm like, sure. So I got the source code for what they wanted me to solve. And I went through and I looked at it. And then I just basically copied it and turned it in. Because in my mind, it was at the end of the day, I'm not going to get this job. I'm being negative, right? So they called me into the office to tell me, hey, we want to go ahead and offer you the internship. The internship was supposed to pay $15 an hour, but they were paying me $20. I'm just sitting there with a smile on my face. Because, see, I have this mindset that you never let anybody know how bad you're doing. Always have an uplifting attitude. Whenever anyone asks me how you're doing, I don't care how down on I am, I'm going to say, I'm fantastic, and I'm going to have a smile on my face. I find it better when you can just smile and just have an upbeat attitude, even though your whole world is falling apart around you. So I get the job, started my career as a software developer. I'm getting ready to go. I want to call my wife and let her know the good news. She don't want to talk to me. I don't think she realized that I had a job until a couple of weeks later, because she was just outdone with me because what I did, I put us in harm's way. But her faith is not my faith. And I did that wrong. When I go back in hindsight 2020 and go back and look at that, I should have handled that a whole lot differently. But I had to go through it. And sometimes you may have to go through some things that's a struggle. Even in your business, you find yourself that if I change the way I think, my life will follow. That's another quote. Change your mind, your life will follow. I changed my mind, but nobody else saw it but me. But I had to stick to it when nobody else believed but me. And over time, and it kind of happened quickly, because just like with this YouTube thing, if you just keep going forward, if you just keep doing a little bit and improving a little bit every single day, eventually something is going to turn and shift in your direction. But you got to have a positive attitude all the way through it. So the thing that changed my life and my mindset immediately, it goes all the way back to 2009, was going to that meeting and hearing about online marketing. And it changed the way I thought. And it changed my life. I had a lot of ups and downs. I still have ups and downs, but I know how to deal with them a whole lot differently now. I understand, make YouTube your side hustle. Don't make it your main hustle. Even with my photography business that I'm starting this year, that's not going to be my main hustle. That's going to be my side hustle. That's why I'm calling this channel the Supreme Hustle Experience, because it's an experience. So in the end, I was able to buy this house, beautiful home, live in a great community, a great subdivision. My children go to a great school, and that's why we wanted to live in this school district, because it's great for my younger two children. Because like I said, my youngest son has autism. And God has a way of navigating your life. That's why you have to understand that if you learn to follow him, that's why they change your mind, your life will follow. If you allow the Lord to get into your mind, give you that desire, and you learn how to trust him, he will lead you in all manner of truth. And so that's what happened to me. Everything turned for its better because I made a decision to change my mindset. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was everything just fell into place. You have to learn. You have to bump your head. You have to figure it out. And if you learn as you go, you're going to figure it out. Okay, this is a long video. I know I probably went out into a rant. But if you all have made it to the end of the video, I thank you for giving me that opportunity to spend some time with me. This is Supreme Hustle Experience. Again, my name is Terrence, your Supreme Hustler, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.